Welcome, adventurers, LARPers, and Ren Fair enthusiasts. I am St. Godric, and today I am going through the best starting classes for new players in the LARP of Amtgard. Welcome, everybody. So glad that you are joining me today. I want to go through a conversation that I have so often with new players at my park. They're coming out to Amtgard for the very first time, and they want to know what class to play. But before we get into all of that, if you like this content, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really does help out the channel. It goes a really, really long way. So, when I have a conversation with new players, the first thing that I ask them is, do you have any character types that you really enjoy playing in games like Skyrim or Dungeons and Dragons? Is there something that you latch onto that you just have this desire to play? For me, that was a wizard. I wanted to play a wizard so badly when I started. It didn't matter if it was a good class, didn't matter if it was a bad class. That's what I wanted to play, and that's what I had the most fun with. So my first question to a new player is there anything like that you really want to play? Some players come in and they know they want to play assassin, and that is what they're going to have the most fun with. Or maybe they already have some armor that they've purchased from Renaissance fairs or things like that, and they want to throw all the armor on and just go play. If the new player has something that they want to play, let them play it. That is my first tip, my first piece of advice. If you want to play something already, you have that in your mind, you want to play that archetype, go for it. You're going to have a lot more fun doing it that way. If you don't have that, we get to the second step. Most players that I talk to will recommend Monk to new players, and there's a little bit of merit in that. Monk has a large variety of different weapon options. They don't have access to a shield, which can be kind of expensive, so that's nice for new players. They have a heal and a resurrect, so you get a little bit of spells, but mainly the reason why people recommend Monk is because you get to ignore magic. And in my opinion, that is a bad thing for a new player. I want my new players interacting with the game as a whole. And so if you tell them play Monk and they play Monk for the first year of the game and they ignore a major component, a major portion of our game, I think we're setting them up for failure. So for me, I would not recommend Monk as my starting class. I'm going to give you two. And part of the reasons why I'm selecting these two classes is because there's a little bit of crossover in between the equipment that they can use. And one is a melee and one is a caster. And I recommend new players pick one to start with and then flop to the other to level up as their second class. That way they get a little bit of the taste of both of them. So the first class that I recommend, we are going to go to Barbarian. Now, I am on the AMP Wiki. This is a fantastic tool. If you are not familiar with it, it has all of our rules and it's got pages for different people and things like that. I would highly recommend going and checking out AMP Wiki. So I'm just going to go through real quick why I like Barbarian for new players. First up, 3 points of armor. So if you're a new player, what I would recommend, go get yourself a really nice gambeson or maybe a chainmail shirt. You can get some armor that is going to start off pretty cheaply, but still be valuable. And you'll see here in a second, my second class that I'm going to go with as well. This will transfer in between both classes. So as a barbarian, the abilities that you get immune to subdual and immune to command right off the back. This does allow you to negate some magic, but I like it better than the monk because it forces the player to learn a little bit about the spells of magic instead of just a blanket, I'm going to ignore it all. This still has a little bit more interaction with the magic system than what the monk gets. So this essentially for new players, what you can tell them is if there is a crowd control, a CC spell, there's a good chance they don't have to take it. Then they get Berserk right here, which is armor breaking for melee weapons. I think that's great for new players to start interacting with armor breaking, shield crushing as early on in the game because it's a pretty big mechanic in Amtgard. The biggest reason, fight after death. This is just a fun mechanic. As a new player, as a veteran player, like it's so fun and you can feel so useful and get your kill count up and just really, really enjoy yourself. Essentially, when you die, you get to come back and just go ham and kill a whole lot of people. It's a lot of fun. Get this once per refresh at second level. Then you get adrenaline, which every time you kill somebody, you can say adrenaline and you get a wound back. That's very useful. Brutal Strike. Every time you strike somebody, that person is cursed. If you have to say and stay down, that person is cursed. And what that means really is that they can't be resurrected. They can't be healed. It's super, super valuable there. And then Blood and Thunder gives you Blessing Against Wound, which is wounds, which is essentially just a free limb, a free hit, essentially. So I like this class because it does, for new players, because it does have some mechanics in there that is going to involve them with larger parts of the game, armor breaking. They do have some spells. They still get to ignore some, but not all magic. And who doesn't like playing just a Conan the Barbarian and going ham in the front lines? Super good class. This is what I would recommend for new players. Now, the second class that I would recommend is going to be Bard. Now, the reason I say Bard is because the crossover, the equipment that you can use for Barbarian is very similar. The armor that you get for both will be able to be used. You can use a lot of the same equipment, but Bard does allow you to be able to get into the magic casting. And it's got two very different archetypes that you can play. And I think that that's a good thing. So one, you can play Battery Bard. This is if you want to play more supportive magic. Your goal there is to buff up your teammates and buff up the other spellcasters. The other one is kind of a CC long distance crowd control Bard. I really, really enjoy those as well. That's fun for new players to start learning how to be able to cast at different players. Bards also, if you spec out correctly, you can see this down here, can get 2 points of armor, can use most melee weapons. I think that this is a great, great class to introduce someone to casting, because as a new player, you always want to be working on your skill set as well. So you still get to fight, where if you go healer or wizard, you don't necessarily get that as much. So you're still working on your martial prowess. You still are getting to wear armor, which is a good thing. But then you also get introduced into two different types of casting in the game of Amtgard. So if you're a new player, you're interested in getting started, and you have no idea what you want to play. First up, see if there's anything in D&D, Skyrim, any of those games that you like to play that you're interested in. If you are, play that. That's how you're going to have the most fun. If that's not you, you're kind of open to playing whatever, I would recommend Barbarian and Bard. Pick one. Max it to level 6. When you're done with one, go play the other, max it to level 6. Then you've been in the game a year and a half, maybe at that point. You'll have a better understanding of what all the classes do and how they interact. And then from there, you can kind of spec into what you think will be the most fun. Those are the two classes that I would recommend for new players for the first time as they walk onto an Amtgard field. My name is St. Godric. See you next time.